Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome everyone to Introduction to Industrial Engineering. We have covered in the previous sessions about the engineering systems management area in general, and also we talked about the engineering systems analysis and design, as well as for the systems development life cycle. And then we talked about the project management. In the project management, we also talked about the project management cycle, and we listed three main activities, criterions, or categories are the planning, scheduling, and controlling. For the scheduling, we have covered some of the tools like the Gantt chart and the responsibility matrix. Today, also, we'll add a new tool to your list for the scheduling and the project management, which is the PERT, the Program Evaluation Review Technique. This tool is very commonly used and widely used for managing your activity or scheduling your activities in your project. It's a probabilistic model with uncertainty in activity duration. Uncertainty ما عندنا تأكيد أو ثقة أكيدة بالضبط متى يكون ال duration for each activity، و probabilistic معناها فيها احتمالية. There is always a similar tool to the PERT called the CPM, critical path method, and this method is deterministic model. هذه probabilistic, هذه deterministic. We will cover today in this session about this one. You will cover the CPM in other courses like project management or even in quality improvement methods course that's already in the playlist in the channel. You can go for the control phase tools and you can learn and see example for the critical path method, how we do it. You need to know here the difference between them in terms of the concept. This one uses probability, this one is deterministic model, and the node here for the activity for the CPM use the activity, whereas the node here الدوائر تمثل الأحداث، الحدث الأول، الحدث الثاني، بغض النظر regardless of the activity. Activity placed in the arrow. تجميع المعلومات، تحليل المعلومات. If we listed this as activity, those would be inside the arrow or written on the arrow. هنا بيكون الactivity نفسها تجميع المعلومات هي نفسها النود. Arrow only shows which one depend on the other. So maybe the question you ask when I use PERT and when I use CPM, to make it simple, both of them can work with the project management, and both of them are suitable for project management in terms of the activity. But if you have used the work breakdown structure, it would be better to use the CPM. If you worked with deliverables أشياء تتسلم تقرير قد منتهي. But this report has activity, جمع بيانات, doing the literature review, doing the introduction, doing the all that, a list of activities. It would be preferred to use the CPM better, but if you have deliverables يعني أشياء تتسلم متطلبات, then you use the PERT. If you recall that when we work the work breakdown structures, it uses activities for each of the major activity. It has sub other small activities under that one. If you are going to use the WS, it would be better to use the CPM. Other than that, if you have deliverables or activities are written as a deliverables, يعني تقرير, presentation, المودel as deliverables, then you use the PERT. This is just in general the difference between them. This is as much the level you need to know here, the difference between them. But we will cover the PERT, and you know how to do the PERT and how you use the PERT in doing the analysis. The PERT uses 3-point estimation called optimistic, most likely, pessimistic. الoptimistic اللي هو أفضل وقت لإنهاء المشروع، اللي هو خلينا نقول في أفضل الظروف متوقع إنه يكون المشروع من not the project, sorry, the activity to be completed. You have activity, let's say a report. في أفضل الظروف report in the project it will be finished, let's say, in 7 days. This is an example. So this is the fastest possible. Whereas the report in the most likely takes, let's say, 10 days. في أسوأ الظروف it will be 14 days. This is the longest we do. So you have to put 3-point estimation for each activity. And this usually done by the team and the stakeholders of the project, not only individual one person, just put them arbitrarily. So it needs some kind of discussion to know the resources needed for each activity. So we have a project that contain model, contain report, contain presentation. You have to test the model. On that activities or deliverables, if we are going to use the PERT in this case, each one of them need to have these 3-point of estimation. Then we use these 3-point estimation in the PERT formula using this exact formula: 1 times P, the value of P, 4 times M, plus 1 times O. Those 7, 10, and 14 are just examples. Depend on your activity, you will list the optimistic, most likely pessimistic. But in most cases, and definitely it's obvious, for optimistic it has to be less than most likely, and the most likely has to be less than the pessimistic. يعني أحسن الظروف لازم تكون منطقيا هي أقل من المتوسط، والمتوسط يكون أقل من أسوأ الظروف. So these constant value في الفورمولا ال1 وال4 another one here times O and here times M, and those are constant. This is a formula. You add them and multiply them in this manner, and then you divide them over 6. Variance, you subtract optimistic time minus pessimistic time to the power 2 divided by 6 to find the variance اللي هو التغير لكل activity. معدل التغير لكل activity. Example will make things more clear. So we will take an example. This is an example of list of activities you have and ask you to use the PERT to find the critical path. This is the optimal objective or the final answer to find the critical path. Maybe you ask, what is the critical path? I will give you an example. What is the critical path so you can link it? Imagine this course, the Introduction to IE, has 2 prerequisite courses, okay? If you have not completed one of them, you will not be able to take this course. And this course, Intro to IE, is a prerequisite for other courses. And those courses comes the followed semester, في الترم اللي يليه. So, الprerequisite من الأساس لهذا المقرر, if you didn't take it, you failed or you withdraw, whatever was the reason, you will not be able to finish the study plan or the curriculum on time, and most likely you will be delayed for graduation based on your study plan. فأنت بالتالي حتتأخر. فمعناه critical path, those 2 courses اللي هي previous to this one or prerequisite to this one intro to IE are one of the activities in the critical path, because if you delay them, you will postpone your graduation. On the other hand, في المقابل مادة مثلا خلينا نقول ثقافة إسلامية أو لغة إنجليزية، إذا ما أخذتها الآن، أولا ممكن تأخذها الترم القادم، ثانيا هي متطلبها ما هو الترم القادم، ثالثا متطلبها ليس هو من متطلبات sequence للspecialization courses، هي 3 مقررات منفردة موجودة على طول البرنامج، ممكن تأخذها في أي وقت. طبعا there is a chance if you didn't take them for 2 maybe consecutive semesters وما أخرتها إلى الأخير قد ممكن تتأخر، لكن فرص إنك تتأخر في البرنامج حتكون less than if you didn't take the prerequisite for a course that is going to be required to continue on your study plan. So what is the critical path again? The critical path is the path in the project as the set of activities that you cannot delay them. If you delay one of them, all the project duration will be affected. So we have to find this critical path to focus on that path and make sure there is no delay happened in those activities listed in the critical path, okay? This list of activities with letters. يعني إيش معناها؟ These activities represent only the name of that activity is not the description. يعني ممكن إنه يكون جمع بيانات، تصميم whatever. So we have it listed here to make it easier. We list it as letters. The predecessor for each activity, the prerequisite لكل activity is listed in this column. So activity A, activity B and C, they don't have any prerequisite activities. ما عندها أي activity لازم نبدأ فيها قبل ما نبدأ في A, B and C. Sometimes only one activity does not have the predecessor and all the others have. But in this case, we have three, they don't have any predecessor. In some activities like this one here, it has two, E and F. So you cannot do H or start with H before you complete E and F. And you have to pay attention to those because sometimes you have more than two, okay? You may have E, F, and C, let's say. You have to finish them all before you start with H. So you have to pay attention to those because when we would start answering the solution, you will need to know what will be the cause of these type of activities. Optimistic time, as we said, the fastest time you will finish activity A is 6 days, let's say. At the unit time, you can use days, weeks, depends on your project nature. يعني weeks or days, this is, or a month. So we have here 6 days, let's say. The most likely time, as we said, usually is greater than the optimistic, and it's 7. The pessimistic time is 8 for activity A. For B, we have أسرع وقت ممكن نغلق فيه. Activity B is 3, most likely 5, and P is 7. These are given information. Usually you will have in your example or the quiz or exam. Usually it's already provided to you, unless if you are working in a project and you have done the work breakdown structure, you can develop this by yourself where you can list the activity and list the predecessor for each activity, and you put the optimistic time, most likely time, and pessimistic time for each of those activities based on your project and your team members and the stakeholders of your project. هو الأشخاص المستفيدين من المشروع حقك والعاملين أيضا كمان في المشروع. You can establish this one if you were working in actual project وعملت ال WBS. ممكن أنت بنفسك تصمم الجدول هذا بحيث إنك أنت تحط التقدير الاحتمالي. Remember it's a probabilistic model، فيها احتمالية إنك تخلص الأكتيفيتي هذه في أفضل الظروف، في معظم الظروف، في أسوأ الظروف. Okay. So these are the given information. The first thing we have to do is we start drawing the nodes for each event. The sequence of the event start with event number 1. عندنا أول event اللي هي رقم 1. In event 1, always I look in the both columns اللي هو العمودين هذه، أشوف إيش الأكتيفيتي اللي هي placed on event 1. I look in the arrow was not showing here. I look for both two columns here, the activities and the predecessors, and I see which activity that does not have any predecessor. In our case here, we have 3 activities. So all of those 3 activities fall on event 1. ليش؟ لأنه all of them happens in event 1. ما في لهم متطلبات. So I will have 3 arrows for event 1, and I will have node for each of those future events. So I will have event 2, event 3, event 4. Okay. Then I list the activity on the arrow. How I will list the activity? I will put here A, and here B, and here C. Then I will look for also again to the table. and I have activity D, it has a predecessor is A. So where is A is listed here. So activity D will be after this node. So I draw an arrow and I will end the arrow always with a node, and that will be 5. Then we stop the sequence at 4, so we will have 5 here, and then we will have activity D placed here. Okay, so in this case now we have already we finished this one, we finished that you can cross them. Now looking for activity E. What is the predecessor for E is B, and in our case B is placed here, so D will come after that event because it's depending on B. So how we do that? Again, we will draw the arrow, we will stop the arrow with a node, and that will be number 6, and then we put activity E here. So activity E will be here, and then you can also cross this one if you want, so you can keep track your activities. Now for activity F, I have the predecessor is C, and this is where is the C. Also for the C, if you pay attention here, I have activity G as the predecessor also, I mean for G is the C. So I have 2 activities that is depending on C, activity F and activity G. So in this case, activity C, the event from here, it will have 2 nodes that coming out of them. When I start, before I put those arrows, I have to make sure also and follow the sequence and see where are they going to fall. For example here, the activity H is depending on E and F. We just draw the E here now, only remain the F, so you can start the H. So where is going to be? The H also, as you can see, is depending on the F, and the F is depending on the C. So you have to pay attention here when you draw the arrow from the C. You have to pay attention where you are going to move the F and G. The F has to go to the same node where is the E. Why? Because E and F are prerequisite to H. So the node of C, it has F and G, two arrows. And F, I have to put it to this node because F and E, both of them lead us to H. Whereas the G and H will lead us to the last one, which is J. So let's do the drawing now for the F. And that will be F. And that will be the G. Now when we go back to here, E and F, now let's cross the F. Let's cross the G. Now, when we want to do the H is depending on A and F. As you can see, E and F are depending on the H depending on both E and F. So here we can draw the H, but where is the H is heading? Is heading to the same node of number event 7. Why? Because H and G, both of them will lead us to the J. So here this one will be the H, and those two together will lead us to the J. So we cross here and we draw and that will be number 8, and that will be the J. Okay, maybe you will ask, what about the I? The I is easy because it's going to be only has a predecessor, which is D, and that also will lead us to the final event. So we just can connect it to here and we put I here. So I will be already completed after you finish D, and that will lead you to the last event. Again, we started with 3 branches. The 3 branches, why we started with them? Because each of those activities, they don't have any prerequisite. بعدين we have an A, you have to start to look for each one. طبعا the good thing about it, you can verify after you finish the node. It's easy to do verify. يعني maybe you get now confused how we did the branch for the node 4 and node maybe 6. Like, the good thing about it, you can easily validate your answer after you do the drawing by tracking the event. For example, the last event here, or the start event. The start event, starting from 1, I have activity A, B, and C. All of them, they are placed at the beginning because there is no predecessor for each one of those. بعدين نبدأ track each one of them. For activity D, I have to have A before, so I will do A and then I will do D. If you are going to track the D, you will find it all the way to the end, and it will lead you to activity I, and then there is nothing that depends on I after that. So I will be the end point for the sequence of A, D, and then I. So you will do A, D, and I, and then that the last event. But for the branch of activity B, I have activity E, اللي هي هذه, and then I have activity H, whereas it needs E and F. E comes from the node اللي هي أو come from the activity B, but F comes from activity C. So E and F, they both come from activity C, so I will place them together to event 6 that will lead us to activity H. The same for the J. The J needs H and G. The H and G. The H comes from the combination of E and F, leads you to the H, and the G comes only directly from the C. البرانش حق الC comes to 2 branches. F with the E leads to H, and the C directly takes you also to the G, and the G with the H takes you to the J, which is the last point. So where you have the last letter, this is to validate, اللي هو in the table that doesn't have any prerequisite. خلاص الجي ما بتتكرر معانا بتظهر مرة أخرى، فهي نقطة انتهاء. So always it has to be in the last arrow. مين كمان عندي activity that does not continue خلاص anymore, it comes to the end. Here الآي ما لها أي activity بعد كده متطلب منها I، فمعناها الآي end point. So I will make sure that the I end with our last event. This is how you draw the PERT activities. Now we just list the, you can use this by your own to practice and draw the letters. Now we just place the, or we calculate the PERT first, then we place them, or we place their value. How we calculate the PERT? Remember the formula that we have stated earlier. The formula says PERT formula equal 1 times P plus 4 times M plus 1 times O, all of them divided by 6. This is the formula that we have covered previously. If you go and apply this formula now, to find this column here, the PERT value for each activity, we need to find the PERT value for each activity. So apply the formula. 1 times 8 is 8, and 4 times M اللي هو الأربعة في 7 plus 1 times O, which is 6. So I have 8. 4 times 7 is equal to 56. So let's do that for, I will write it down so you can follow that. PERT for A equal 1 times the E, which is 8, plus 4 times 7, that is 28, plus 1 times O, which is 6, all that divided by 6. The 8 plus 28 plus 6 equal 42 divided by 6 equals to 7. Now you can see it. 1 times 8 اللي هو 1 times P, 4 times 7 from the formula, 4 times most likely the M value 7, so 4 times 7 is 28. 1 times 6 اللي هو 1 times O, the O value 6, so we place it 6 plus 28 plus 8 equal 42 divided by 6 in the formula equals 7, so we place 7 here. ال1 وال4 وال1 هذه من الفورمولا that we listed in the previous slides. The value from P of P, M, O, you get it from the table for each one from the activity estimated time. And then you divide them by 6 after you do the calculation, and you get the value for the PERT. Now you do that for every activity and you calculate the PERT. After you do that, then you go and place the value for the PERT for each activity. So what we do, we put with A the 7, and for the B we have 5, so we put 5 here, and for the C we have 7, for the D we have 3, so we put 3, For the E, we have 5, so we put 5. And for the F, we have 8, so we put 8. And we continue with all the letters. So by that, you will get the values as listed here. Those values for the PERT value, you have found them from this column. We explained how we found the value for each, or for activity A, and you can apply it to the all, and you just write the PERT value next to each activity. It's very simple. Now we have to calculate the variance, and the variance only we calculated to estimate the variability, التغير اللي ممكن يصير عندي في الactivity. So I can predict the variability for each activity, but we are not going to use it in this node. But it's just required if you are going to estimate the variability, التغير في وقت إنهاء النشاط، لكن هو للتقدير فقط وليس للحل. In the next step, we have to find the minimum completion time and the maximum start time for each of the event. For each of the event, next to each event, event 1, you have to put these two boxes. The value in the top represent the minimum completion time. The value in the bottom represent the maximum start time for that event. We put it for all the nodes, لكل الnodes. طيب, so you put these boxes for all the nodes. And then we apply a forward calculation for the maximum start time. Then we do the backward calculation for the minimum minimum completion time. إيش الماكس start time؟ الوقت الأقصى للإيفنت، متى بدايته، وأقل وقت ممكن لإنهاء الإيفنت. We start من اليسار إلى اليمين, from node 1 to node 8 to find the max start time. بعدين نعكس من اليمين إلى اليسار to find the minimum completion time. كيف حنحسب الماكس start time? It's very simple. Basically, you will look for the max start time. You will start with the first node, which is representing the node for activities A, B, and C. And usually the first node that will have a 0 value because it's going to be the starting point for us. So we always start with the 0 value. For the remaining, now we look for the values that we have calculated, and we start to use these values in the max start time. Okay, how we do that? Now, the value we calculated, we place them here. قيمة حقت الPERT values given here. We wrote it in the previous step. So to find the max start time for node 2, you add this value to the max start time for node 1. So 0 plus 7 will be 7. So basically you would write 7 here. Okay. Now for the 0, let's put the pointer again. Yes, 0 plus 5 will give me 5. So we put the 5 as the max start time for node 3. And for the node 4, 0 plus 7 will be 7. So we put 7. Now for the node 6, for example, I have what? I have the value of 5 plus 5 is 10, but also I have the 5 plus 8, which is the 13 that comes from the node that is here, F, which is 8 and 7. 8 and 7, sorry, 15, not 13. 8 and 7 is 15, or 5 and 5 is 10. عندي two choices, or عندي two branches جاية للنود 6. either from ال F branch اللي هو من الactivity F, or ال E branch اللي هو من activity E. If I add the 5 plus 5 will give me 10, and if I add the 8 plus 7 will give me 15. Which one should I use? I use the max. I'm doing the max. Remember, I'm doing the max, so I use the max. عشان لا تنسى. I'm doing the max, so I use the max. I have two values come to the node. I use the max value. خلاص يصير I use ال F route اللي هو 8 و7 15. مظبوط. Yes. Not 13. Okay. Now for the node 7. Node 7 will have another two branches, 15 plus 7 or 7 plus 4. 7 plus 4 comes from the G activity. A 22 comes from the H activity. A 7 لل H plus ال 15 from a node 6 أو ال 4 activity G time 4 plus ال 7 from node 4. احنا قلنا بنعمل الماكس, so we take the max. So 7 plus 15 is 22, and we will select ال branch حق ال H, and that will be a 22. We will select this branch 7 and 15. We will not take 4 and 7 because we are doing max start time. Now let's continue with this one. This one we forgot it. Here let's do that. 3 plus 7 is 10. So we place 3 plus 7 is 10. So we place 10 here. Now let's continue to the last node. The last node also has two activities, either I, which is 8 plus 10 is 18, or 4 plus 22 is 26. Which one we will take, the J or the I? We are doing the max, remember, so we take the largest. 4 plus 22 give us 26, whereas 8 plus 10 give us 18. So take the 26 and we write 26 in this box. Now we do the backward from the right to the left. So we start from node 8 to node 1. The node now 8, the minimum completion time usually will be where you stopped. خلاص انت completion and maximum start time for the last node is going to be 26. So all the time that the value here, it will be the same. So it will be the 26, because this is the minimum completion time, and that is the same as the maximum start time. Now we start to subtract. The 26 minus the 8 will give me 18. So we write the 18 here. And the 18 minus the 3 will give me 15. So I will write 15 here. For this one, I cannot still do it because I still have to finish the other branches that link to node 1. So let's do the other branch from here. So let's do J. The J go to the node 7, and that will be 26 minus 4. That will equal to 22. So here we will have for node 7, I'm trying to okay, it's not getting me to the same box. So the 22 is related to the minimum completion time for node 7. Now, node 7 linked to node 6 and linked to node 4. For the node 4, I have, if I'm going to apply the same, I will subtract the 22 from 4, but that will be also equal to what? To 18. And if I'm going to subtract the 22 from the 7, that will lead me to 15. So I will take now the maximum again value that provided to node 6. So we will put here that also 15. Now we continue with the subtraction. We subtract the 15 minus the 5, and that will give us the 10. So we'll put 10 here. Or the 15 minus 8, 15 minus 8, that will give us 7. So we put the 7 here. Again, when we started with the 22, we either to subtract it from the 7, or we go with the route with اللي هو G route, which is 4. Since we started the previous one also with the maximum was the 15, so we go with the 15 because the 22 minus the 4, it will give us 18, and the 22 minus the 7 will give us the 15. So we will select the one has the minimum completion time. The minimum completion time that's give us the duration that later we will call it the room in اللي هو الوقت المتاح عندنا في start will end. For always we think about it in this way. We want to have the maximum window for each one to find where is the activity that we cannot compromise their time. So when we subtract the 22 minus the 7, it gives us 15. And when we subtract the 22 minus the 4, it gives us 18. We go with the minimum time because that will lead us also to the maximum duration in total. But here, since we are doing the minimum, we do the minimum value. فعندي نود جاي لها سهمين، أطرح القيمتين وشوف أية أبدأ. أخذ ال 22 minus 7 or the 22 minus 4. لأنه this 4 is also has another node. So in this case, I will go with this route. يعني رجعتي حتكون من 7 to 6 using the H route. Okay? I subtracted the same for this node. If I subtract the 15 minus the 8, it will give me the 7. So I will place it here as for that for node 4. And if I subtracted from here to here, because here there is no branch that coming other than this way, this route has to be completed, whereas this route can to be done in this manner. يعني ممكن أطلع كده وبعدين أرجع مرة ثانية من الجهة دي. فهذا الكلام ما ينطبق على هنا. من 6 إلى 3 لازم أعمل الخط هذا، لكن هنا ممكن أطلع إلى 6 وبعدين أرجع من 6 إلى 4. ما يحتاج إني أروح من 7 إلى 4. عندي مفترق طريق، أختار الأقصر بينهم في الرجعة، وبعد كده إذا كان في إمكانية يصير أخذ الطريق الآخر أحسن من أخذ هذا الراوت. Here I don't have this way, I have to continue this branch. Now if you go and subtract 10 minus 5 will give me 5, and 7 minus 7 will give me 0. So I will choose the minimum completion time, and that will give me 0 again. So this is what we are trying. We are trying to find the best duration by starting with the forward path اللي هو الخط from the left to right, selecting the max start time. في الخط اللي هو backward, after we finish here the lower box اللي هو max start time, we go from the right to the left, من اليمين إلى اليسار. نبدأ بالminimum completion time، الوقت الأقصر، لأنه أنا لما أحسب الأقصى وقت للبداية وأقل وقت للنهاية وجدت لي أفضل وقت ممكن عندي لإنهاء الactivity. So I don't exceed my estimated values. So when we start to subtract, branches like this one اللي هي الخطوط اللي ما فيها تفرعات هتطرح مباشرة from the PERT value 26 minus 8 and you continue. لكن الnodes اللي it has more than one branches, I have to wait and look which route is better. فأنا لما جيت على النود 7 I can go to 6, I can go to 4, and 4 will lead me to 1, and 6 lead me to 3 or lead me to 4. Okay, so I have another way in going to 4. 4 is not only connected by 7 like 5 to 2. 5 و 2 ما فيش خطوط ثانية فرعية، هي الخط الوحيد للعودة من هذا الطريق. لكن هنا أقدر أروح من 7 إلى 6 وأروح ل1، وعشان أغطي البرانش هذا ممكن أروح من 7 إلى 6 ومن 6 إلى 4 وأروح ل1، أو من 7 إلى 4 مباشرة ل1. Which one should I choose? I start to subtract the 22 minus 7 بيعطيني 15. Or I subtract the 22 minus 4 give me لا عفوا 24. Yes, 22 minus 4 give me 18. ال 18 أكبر من ال 15، فأنا أروح للطريقة الأقصر في الرجعة. أختار ال 15. ليش؟ لأنه I can go to node 4 through node 6 by subtracting 15 minus 8 I will get 7. This route ما لها تفرعات، خلاص أنا حرجع هنا مباشرة من node 6 to node 3 using activity E. 15 minus 5 is 10. 10 minus 5 is 0. وممكن أرجع ل1 من 3 different branches زي ما أنتم شايفين. 15 minus 7 ف 10 minus 5 ولا 7 minus 7. مين أقصر طريق أو أقل قيمة؟ 7 minus 7 هو اللي بيعطيني أقل قيمة، فأحاخذ الطريق حق ال 4 لل1. ما حاخذ الطريق هذا لأنه 15 ناقص 4 عفوا ناقص 7 يعطيني 8، وال10 ناقص 5 حتعطيني 5، لكن ال7 ناقص 7 حتعطيني 0. فأنا أبغى الشورتست اللي هو المينيمم completion time. When I complete this I can find the critical path easily. كيف أوجد الكريتيكال باث؟ أشوف الفاليوز المتطابقة. هذه value متطابقة، هذه value متطابقة here 22، وعندي هنا value متطابقة there is here, and there is here. So I can say that the route will be for the critical path, and we can draw it in this way. This is the answer here in the slide, so when you download it. So I can say the critical path will be this way for the values that has تطابق اللي هو identical for the minimum and the maximum. Think about it. Going back to this one here. لما يكون عندي maximum time, what is the pointer? When I have the maximum start time, أقصى وقت أقدر أبدأ فيه الحدث رقم 1 is 0. وأقل وقت الانتهاء فيه 0. والنوت 2 أقل الماكسيمم تايم is start time is 7 والمينيمم completion time is 15. فعندي وقت يسموه سلاك، عندي enough وقت between 7 لل 15. لكن في الراوتس الخاصة بالقيم اللي هي متشابهة ومتماثلة زي هنا الراوت هذه، الماكسيمم ستارت تايم 7 والمينيمم كومبليشن تايم 7، فمعناها من يوم ما أبدأ عندي 7 days عشان أخلصها، ولازم أبدأ في اليوم السابع. هنا لو بدأت في اليوم السابع عندي 15 يوم أقدر أنهيها. فالدوريشن حقتي أكبر، لكن الأوقات اللي بيكون عندي الستارت تايم والكومبليشن تايم متطابق، معناها الفترة حقت البداية والانتهاء ما أقدر أتحكم فيها ولا أقدر أغير فيها، ما عندي سلاك، ما عندي وقت زيادة أقدر أشتغل فيه. لازم أنهي المشروع في نفس الوقت اللي أبدأ فيه، أنهي بقدر الفترة المتاحة عندي لإنهاء الأكتيفيتي المرتبطة به. فأنا دائما أرتبط بالكريتيكال باث أو زي ما إحنا when we say the prerequisite, those courses if I miss them I will not be able to take the followed course, and the followed course will open another courses in the followed semesters. So think about it in the same، يعني engineering design introduction to IE مثلا work measurement course، بعدين عندك اللي هو مثلا خلينا نقول or manufacturing ولا ergonomics، بعد كده التخرج اللي هي المواد السينيور. فهنا مواد الثقافة، مواد اللغة العربية، بيكون عندك enough time so where you can complete them. So how I can find the critical path? I follow events that has the maximum start time equal to the minimum start time. عندي هذه. This one no is not. This one yes, but I'm not going to go to 6 through 3. عندي خيار ثاني whereas اللي هو الكريتيكال باث فيه أصعب ولازم أحققه on time، فما أقدر أعمل withdraw هذه المادة، أحافظ عليها حتى لو انضغطت في السمستر لأنه حتفتح لي مواد، فأقوم أخذ النود 4 لأن it has the minimum completion time والmax start time is the same. بعدين I can go to node 6 through node 4. بعدين I go continue with node 7 لأنه it has the same, and then I go to the last node which is node 8. So this is how you find the critical path. You start with the nodes that, or you continue with the nodes that has the start time and the minimum and the completion time is equal. Usually when you follow the procedure of the right to left and the left to right, there is always validation point. عندك دائما حيكون نقاط تتحقق إنه إجابتك صحيحة. Always there will be the first node has 0, and always the last node it has to have equal maximum maximum start time and minimum completion time is equal. فدائما يكون آخر نود وأول نود عندي بيكونوا متطابقين، وبعد كده بيكون عندي some nodes that leads me to the critical path like this one here. They have the same exact, because the concept of the max start time and the minimum completion time will guarantee to you that you will have these such يعني nodes لأنه هي هذه critical path. The way how it's calculated, the way how it find you or help you to find nodes that has critical path. Sometimes it could be more than one route. يعني ممكن يكون هذه الراوت وهذه الراوت برضو تكون أنا أتكلم في أحداث حقيقية ممكن يكون عندك أكثر من نود لكن always the critical path in most of the project there is one that has all the values are equal, so always you think in finding those values by applying the forward path and the backward path, and it will appear to you automatically. As long you apply it correct, you have to pay attention to nodes like this one here. When I said that this node has two ways to connect it to node 4, either through 6 or directly from 4. In the backward, you select the minimum, so we choose الراوت حق ال H activity through 6 and then we go to 4. تقول لي طب هذه أقرب، أيوة بس هذه الوقت المستغرق حقهم حيكون أكبر. هنا الوقت أقصر فأروح عن طريق 6 وبعدين أرجع ل 4. How you calculate the critical path value? So the critical path will be activity C, activity F, activity H, then activity J. C, F, H, and J is the critical path. What's the time for the critical path? You add the values اللي احنا وجدناها من الأول للبيرت. 7 plus 8 plus 7 plus 8. الvalues هذه موجودة احنا we found it earlier from the previous steps in the here. Okay, 7, 8, 7, and 4, and that will give you the 26 days is the critical path time. وقت اللي هو critical path حيكون 26 by adding all the PERT values for those activities. I hope this tool was very useful to you, that you are going to use it in your maybe future projects or this course project. I hope you enjoyed this session and you learned something new. Thank you for watching, and I will see you with another tool or another area for the industrial of engineering. Thank you.